Okay, we'll have a moment of silent meditation and pledge to the flag. Thank you. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Monongalia County Commission to order. Let the record reflect that all three commissioners are present. First item on the agenda is consent and approval with our county administrator. Sitting in for our administrator today is our secretary and grant coordinator, Colleen Kuhn. Morning, Colleen.
Good morning. We have 6 requests to create statements for $8,488.28. There are 98 exonerations for $36,895.89. There's minutes for August 11th, 2021. Vouchers, we have general county $490,794.57. 911, $1,524.87. Chestnut Ridge Park, $4,581.73. Camp Muffley, $2,717.97. Mason-Dixon Park, $814.28. Recreation levy, $8,646.06. Assessor's valuation, $2,083.30. Purchasing card vouchers, general county, $10,578.91. 911, $7,295.74. Assessor's valuation, $705, for a voucher total of $529,792.43. We have
one small correction. You skipped over reallocated coal, $50.
Oh, I'm sorry. Reallocated coal, $50.
Okay.
We have budget revisions that require state approval for general county. The first one's ag agent, the second one's contingencies, and the third one is social services. Position vacancies for boards and authorities are listed on our website, and fiduciary orders for August 18th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do we have any separate fiduciary orders?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is introduction of new employees, personnel changes. I don't see any on the agenda. Do we have any?
We do have one for the Youth Services Center. It's for Olivia Hamill. Her start date was August 11th. She is a part-time employee on call basis, and her starting rate of pay is $13.20 an hour.
Okay, do I have a motion? Motion
Second.
to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is comments from the public. I'll open the comments from the public session of the meeting. Anybody wishing to address the commission may come forward. Seeing none, go ahead and close comments from the public. Next item on the agenda is Dr. Lee Smith, Executive Director, Montaguelia County Health Department, County Health Officer, with a COVID-19 update. Morning, Dr. Smith.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you again. It's my sincere hope that someday I'll have some good news to bring forward. On your screen, you can see the CDC data tracker map of the United States. What's kind of hidden is the state of Maine and New Hampshire, and those are in the orange. The rest of the nation, including Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, DC, et cetera, the transmission of COVID is extremely high, and as a result, the CDC has put forth, I believe as of today, their advisement that masks should be worn at all times indoors. And that may impact some businesses, but you can see that is sort of where we're at with that. There it is. I'm going to start off with the United States numbers. and they look somewhat similar to what we have seen locally. But this is since the very beginning. So this goes back to March of 2020. This is the cumulative numbers so that you're not missing any data. I think that the important part is that you see the original uptick is like in March and then becomes April, then there's May, and then there's June. And we reach the end of July, we've passed that peak, and that occurred nationally, and the same thing in West Virginia. And then there was a little bit of a lull. We saw another peak in the fall, which you'll see here in a minute. And then throughout the holidays, as the weather changed, people came indoors, the disease spread pretty rapidly. And then we started to slow down in the spring, saw another little bump as we went through Easter. And then I think we all got the chance to catch our breath as we went into May and June. And even in July here, we entered the green zone, meaning less than 1 case per 100,000. And unfortunately, since July the 4th, or July the 1st actually, we have seen a steady increase. And you can see the slope of that curve is pretty steep. And the difference is that most of these cases, 90% of what is being seen in West Virginia, it's above 90, it's about 95% of the cases in West Virginia are the Delta variant. We used to call it the Indian variant, but that was insulting to some people, so now we just call it by a Greek letter, which we will probably run out someday. So the Delta variant is a different animal. Unfortunately, we see breakthrough cases for those people who've been fully vaccinated, and that's why there's such a commotion going on. Should there be a third dose to the series? And that is yet to be decided. The ACIP, which is the organization that makes those recommendations, is going to meet next week, I believe, on the 26th, and we should have new recommendations out at that point in time. Obviously, we've all heard that the folks who are immunosuppressed, which is people with malignancies, people who are undergoing various treatments that are immunosuppressed, and even people who are on chronic steroid use, 20 milligrams a day is enough to put you in a chronically immunosuppressed category. And for those individuals, the recommendation is to get a third shot in the series. So our numbers are certainly trending in the wrong way. This is a look at the deaths that occurred throughout the United States. Again, in the very beginning, when the cases were low, there were a lot of people that died, but these were mostly nursing home individuals and the elderly. And then we saw the same peak as we went through the winter months. And unfortunately, that trend is starting to go back up again. These are local data, and I'm sorry the top of that's a little cut off, but it says here that this is statewide hospitalized cases, just general, and the next is ICU, and the third are those on ventilators. And as of this morning, we now have 2 children in pediatric ICU on ventilators. So the difference between COVID that we experienced last year, which was mostly a disease of the elderly and the infirm, is now a different type of virus that impacts the entire spectrum of life and is definitely a pediatric illness. And so you can see that hospitalizations are going up, and that the ICU rate is going up, and the ventilator usage is increasing as well. So unfortunately, not good news there. So this is looking at our 7-day average, and this is the chart that you've seen me time and time again give before you. The first peak, and again, this is cumulative for the entire thing, and they've lost to 0. It's really 100,000, not 10,000 with a bad comma. So this is from March of 2020. We saw our first peak in July, which was people returning from vacation and travelers. Then the second peak is when school started and the universities were all in session. and then that died down a bit, and then we started up through the fall and winter months. The two downturns are holidays, Thanksgiving because people weren't getting tested, and the next one is Christmas, and then there's a little dip in that other peak, and that's New Year's. And then it just kind of slowly drifted down, having some various spikes as people got together, Easter and what have you. And then we got down to July of 21. And at that point in time, we had 8 days where we were in the green zone. And that's been quite a believe me, we appreciate every one of those days where we don't have to, try and chase people down. But then you can see that that curve is accelerating upward at a pretty significant amount. And it looks to me like the curve that we saw going into November. So I hope that it doesn't follow the same trend, but it certainly looks like it's going to. Then we break it down by age. So the first one is the number of people infected from 0 to 5. And again, this is cumulative data, so you can see all the way back. The middle group is sort of through the Christmas holidays, the winter months. But here we are at the past the middle of this year, and our numbers are going up. The next group I'm not finding my mouse anywhere. Have I died? Is it supposed to be light on?
You might need to get closer to the computer.
There we go. Well, it clicked. Okay. So the next is 6 years to 17. And remember that people below the age of 12 are not vaccinated. So you can see that this is coming up. And by and large, probably because the majority of these cases are unvaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Then this is a cumulative between the 0 to 17-year-old group. So these are most of the kids that are in school. And so I think that there is weakness in the case that we're not seeing it in the schools. It's absolutely incorrect. And here's the evidence. And this is what we are seeing locally. This is not statewide. This is non-county data. And then we look at the group that we love to fuss at, the 18 to 24-year-olds. And while they have been leaders at other times, they are not so much this time. Followed by the 25 to 34. So they're taking up the slack and they're increasing their numbers. 35 to 44 increasing. 45 to 54, not so much. 55 to 64 increasing a bit. Then a little bit of peak here, but the big story is look at the over 75s. And unfortunately, we know that is a community that has been well vaccinated. And so we're seeing lots of breakthrough cases, unfortunately. So this chart, although it's a little busy, if you look at this sort of yellow that takes up the majority on the most left-hand bar, is getting smaller percentage as you go up, and that B.1.1.7 is the alpha variant, and that was what we called the UK variant, and it became pretty prevalent. But then that orangish color, the B.1.617.2, is one of the Indian variants. And so now you can see that it is, by and large, the vast majority of cases that we are seeing, that it takes up the majority of the things. So we're keeping an eye on all of them. So the top 4 here are the viruses of concern. And then it becomes, well, actually they have a couple more here, but we don't have those terminated. Mm-hmm. Then it's VOI, which is virus of interest. So we sort of borrowed from the FBI. You're either a person of interest or a person of concern, right? So that's sort of how we do that. We know that the viruses of interest, we're going to watch them, but they don't seem to be causing hospitalizations and deaths as much as the others. The other ones, the alpha, beta, gamma, delta, are the ones that are putting people in hospital and causing death and mayhem in this country. Unfortunately, we are also seeing that in Gamma and Delta that immunoglobulin cocktail that has been talked about a bit is not as active in those mutations. So let's shift gears and talk a little bit about vaccinations in the United States. Somewhere around 400 million doses have been delivered. The darker the color, the more active the immunizations have been. Still, West Virginia overall, we have 49.5% with one dose, which I think is a worthless statistic. Why even mention it? 43.6% fully vaccinated. That's really the number that's of importance. This slide is really, really busy, and I'm sorry that it's so large. Let me try one thing here. Oh, that didn't work out very good. I was just going to try and shrink that, but let's see if I can get back to that. Yeah.
Okay.
These are the number of deaths that have occurred as a result of COVID, and I've listed the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at the death column here, Kanawha County has 365 deaths, followed by Cabell County, 183, Wood County, Berkeley County, Mercer County, Raleigh County, Logan County, Putnam County, and then Monongalia County, and then followed by Mineral. And then the last couple ones are the counties that surround us: Harrison, Marion, Preston, Taylor, and Doddridge. Those are our usual counties that we get involved with. Populations are listed over on the side, and so we can see that Montaguelia County is the third most populated county in this list. And then we have positive cases and probable cases. Probables are the antigens and the rapid tests that really, they're not a PCR. So we put them together. And so Kanawha County has had the most at 16,000, followed by Berkeley County, which had 13,000. And then, the numbers kind of fall off. Mon County, we've had 9,600. But then if we look at the number of deaths, what I took is I looked at the number of cases per population. So it's pretty steady through there, somewhere between 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 to 11% of the population became infected in this state. But then I think the more important statistic is looking at the deaths that occurred per case. So if you got it, what was the chance of you getting to meet your maker? And Kanawha County, 2.27. Raleigh County, 3.4, meaning that if you got it in Raleigh County, you had almost a 3.5% chance of dying. I do want to point out that Monongalia County, out of 55 counties, has the best record for surviving COVID. Now, I think it's multifactorial, and it would be easy for me to sit here and say, hey, claim victory, but that would be disingenuous. I think that part of it is because of the level of medical care that we have here and the ready availability of sophisticated medical treatments. But on the other hand, I think that part of it has to be that we held the line. We're very stringent on quarantine and isolation, contact tracing, mask usage, trying to get the vaccines out. And I think that we play some part in that. And I think that there's no question that our health department was one of the more aggressive health departments in the state in terms of trying to prevent death. And then in the final thing is looking at the overall percentage of death per population. And that's kind of, a Duke's mixture all over the place there. So that is my report. I want to mention two other things that have been going on with the county. Is we're having a lot of pop-up vaccination. Usually we're getting 10, 15, whether it's at Marjorie Gardens or the various.
That Mexican restaurant.
Yeah,
that we did,
yeah.
Really neat idea. Yeah.
Yeah, we just don't want to go in there with our badges. So.
Sorry.
But I heard the food is really excellent.
It is.
Yeah. So we continue to do that, and then yesterday we had a vaccination for WVU at the rec center. We had one in the morning, one in the evening. We had ended up with 47 people. So I'm looking forward to that being moving forward. For the record, people who are interested or have a need for a vaccine at this time, or they have a question whether they fall into the group or not, 304-598-5119, 5119.
Okay.
And what they are doing, what Jennifer is trying to do is, if it's a Pfizer group, we need at least 5 people in the group. And if it's a Moderna, then it's going to be 10 people. There have been no comments as to whether, if you got the Johnson & Johnson, what to do with that group. So that's kind of odd. We have encountered people that have had the Sputnik, and it's not recognized by the Russian variation, and it's not been recognized by the World Health Organization. So we just started them from zero. Here's your first, see you in 28 days.
Right.
And then we've seen some people that have had AstraZeneca who got it from somewhere else and then came here. Again, we don't have any AstraZeneca here, and so we just start them from ground zero. And WVU did not recognize the Chinese, the Sino pharmaceutical one. So we're having a handful of those, but we're just starting them from zero, and you'll get your card. There is a market out there for black market cards. Some people are only accepting them. You know, New York, you've heard that, you know, you can't get in a restaurant without some sort of documentation. So unfortunately, that'll get stronger than weaker. At one time, the CDC had offered a blue card for Pfizer and a yellow card for, and we've gone all back to white cards.
Okay.
And if you're traveling internationally, we have an embossed seal that says Health Department, so we'll put that on there for you to try and give you just a little bit bigger level of verification. We are doing rabies baiting next week. And you know, it's kind of hard to remember that in January 2018, we had 18 cases of rabies in January. It was just running out of control. And through our efforts of working with the USDA, they redrew the map. And so the agreement presently is the USDA will do the aerial baiting. So with planes and with helicopters, they do the rural areas, as long as we do the cities. And we're happy with that as can be. They give us little GPS clickers, and so wherever we drop a bait, we hit the button, and it makes a heat map for our distribution. And knocking on wood, it seems to be working. We had 1 case of rabies last year, so maybe the raccoons are wearing masks and washing their hands. I don't know. But whatever's working, I'll take it. Then finally, we are doing a lot of vector analysis. So a lot of people will tell you it's been a bad year for ticks. It's been a good year for tick collecting, if you want to go there. We've had hundreds and hundreds of ticks collected. They're all in Charleston. We're waiting for the analysis. I am told that it should be back next week. I've got my fingers crossed. But we've done mosquitoes as well, and we're waiting for the analysis on what they're carrying. We've done all the county parks, and we've done all the city parks. And we've also done some in some other counties as well in this 6-county region. So something that hasn't been done with any real vigor in the past because we were dependent upon Charleston, so we've just taken that responsibility onto ourselves. One little backstory is, you may recall when Zika became a problem for Miami, and you could acquire Zika not by going to Puerto Rico, you could acquire Zika by walking down the street in Miami. And the CDC got there and they asked them, well, what is your resistance pattern for mosquitoes? We haven't done any. So for 35 years they've sprayed, but they've never done any testing to see what the mosquitoes were resistant to. Well, that's a great place to start, is know what's going to work, what doesn't. So we're at that level right now. Is one, no one could tell us how many species of ticks there are in Mon County, if we have the invasive tick species, and no one can give us a full list of mosquitoes. So we're trying to flesh that out and sort of get a handle on that. But you know, the fun never ends at the health department.
Yeah.
I have two questions for you that I'd like you to respond to. And it's not more for the three of us, but I know the media and people will be watching this program because of what you're saying. The first one is, from a doctor scientific point of view, not a Facebook doctor, what is the real purpose of a vaccine and why people can have the vaccine and still get it? Because there's a lot of confusion there that they think it's 100%. That's the first question.
Great question, yeah.
Then the second question leads into, again, people saying, well, vaccinated and not vaccinated, and when you're more not vaccinated, the virus mutates, which causes a problem. So could you explain that? Because
Sure,
that
sure.
is the information we need to get out from a real doctor, science, and not Facebook. So if you could do that, because I think that's real important for this public to understand there's two issues.
No, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on that. So we know that the vast majority of people that are contracting it right now are unvaccinated. And it is true that vaccinated people can contract COVID. We're unclear as to why some people don't have a strong immune system or the immunity against COVID and others do. What we know is that if you have had COVID and got over it, you still get a benefit from the vaccine, meaning that we detect those antibodies much longer than if you had just had a case and gotten over it. The other thing is that this is not a vaccine that sterilizes the body from COVID. It's not like giving you a treatment for rabies. It gets rid of it. We will give you a vaccine, allow your body to manufacture its own antibodies, and then if you see that virus again, you got a head start on getting better. And it doesn't prevent you from getting it, but it will certainly keep your symptoms more mild, hopefully keep you out of the hospital, and hopefully keep you alive. And so that are the benefits of getting vaccinated, is it is a reduction of death, is a reduction of hospitalization and the stresses that puts onto our resources locally. And as Tom mentioned, when a person contracts COVID, that virus is using that person's makeup to create additional viruses. And it's like if you went to Lowe's and bought all your equipment to build a house and you went to Home Depot to buy all your equipment to build a house. The houses are going to look pretty much the same, but they'll be different. And so it can be so different that your antibodies don't recognize it, and therefore you've lost your immunity to it. So the more people that get infected, the more people who've not been vaccinated who get it, the more mutations that we see. So that's another reason that we would like people to be responsible and try and keep it down. Because there are people who cannot, for various medical reasons, become vaccinated. And so you've heard everybody from Clay Marsh on, my mask protects you, your mask protects me. And so we know that works. And there are people who want to say that mask usage is immaterial. I don't think so. My original training was in surgery. I've worn a mask for cases that went on 10, 12 hours. I didn't die of carbon dioxide poisoning. They're uncomfortable, yes, they're sweaty, but it does keep down on the spread of disease. It's really that plain and simple. So we don't have any ray gun that's going to shoot these viruses out of the air. We know that the amount of Delta in the air to become infectious is much less than the alpha and the beta and the gamma. So someone could sneeze in a room, leave the room, you go into a room, think, oh, there's nobody here, you can still contract it. So closed spaces, lack of mask usage, washing your hands is still good. And the other thing that we want to try to convince people is that soon we will have influenza vaccines. An influenza vaccine and the COVID vaccine may be given together. We would give them in different arms. but that's why God gave you two. And so you can get both of the shots on the same day. They don't interact because they work by completely different mechanisms.
Thank you. That was really excellent, because that's where we need to get that point across, so to get other people vaccinated. And that's why I'm trying to explain it, and I wanted to have, so I
Sure.
can go back in the video and get the exact wording that you said. Thank you. No.
Pleasure.
One question I hear,
Yeah.
and I hear this a lot, and I hear it on national news, when someone says that they've caught it, they've gotten over it, and now their body has natural recurring antibodies, and they shouldn't get the vaccination. I've heard you say that yes, you should. I've heard people on national TV make the statement, well, I got it, I got over it. If I get the vaccination, that will kill my natural antibodies, which are stronger than the Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's false.
Okay.
The two vaccines that we're using are messenger RNA. So the only piece of the virus that we present to your body in the form of vaccine is that strip that produces the spikes. And that's where most of the mutations occur. Now, if you've contracted it, let's say for alpha, you have no immunity against the other variation. You'd have some, but it's going to be a diminished. What this vaccine does is bolster your body's normal immunity and gives you an increased immunity that lasts longer. And that's been borne out scientifically by studies of measuring antibodies so that we know what, you've got this many. We usually do it in the form of a ratio, 1 to 128 or what have you. And we do the ratio and we measure how long does it last over time. And we know that if you have a vaccine, it gives you this much. If you had the disease and the vaccine, it gives you that much more immunity that lasts longer. I will say, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, the governor had mentioned on an earlier press conference about getting antibody testing. And I don't think that, and it's going to occur through West Virginia University laboratories, I don't think that it's ready for prime time yet, but close. And they will do a study to get people to sign up. You've been vaccinated, let's check your immunity. You've got normal COVID and got over it and didn't get the vaccine, let's check your antibody. And so there'll be a scientific study done here to try to get more information. And I think it will confirm what we already know, is that a previous infection plus vaccine gives you the best, long-lasting, most robust
And if
immunity.
I understood, that program was going to start with 65 and over,
That is my understanding as well.
and so, yeah, they talked about that a couple of weeks ago as if it was in apparent it would be with days, but I've been curious about as far as where it's at.
You want me to sign you up?
Sure, I'm not 65 though.
I am.
Doc, on the vaccines for children up to 12, is that close, or do we know where?
I do not know. I keep hearing rumors around the water cooler, if you will, that it's coming.
Okay.
So from 12 down to either 2 or 12 down to 5 is supposed to be coming out. I know that there's a lot of discussion internationally if the United States and other first world countries are talking about getting a third dose. What does that do to countries who have yet had their first dose? So there's a little bit of push and pull from the World Health Organization is, why are you putting those, I don't sit at that table. I don't get to make decisions or comment on that. But I know that that's one of the things that has to get worked out. The other thing is we want to make sure that there is a robust influenza vaccine program this year, that people don't confuse it with COVID or think that one gives you protection of the other, because it doesn't. And they're two separate diseases, and we don't want to win the war on COVID and lose it on influenza, right, or vice versa. So I think it's important that people get their vaccines. And I know that there are people who are definitely against vaccines and won't do it one way or another.
One follow-up, you'd mentioned that there were 2 children on vents, and I want to ask you to speak to their specific parameters, but in general, children that get to that level with this variant, are you seeing that they're prior immune suppressed or health concerns, or is it
I don't have any of the specifics. I was just told that as I was leaving out the door to
Okay.
come here, that there were 2 kids on ventilators. I will try to dig into that and get you some information. I am going to go out on a limb here. I don't think it's the same as last year, where if you saw a kid on a ventilator, they had a lot of other pre-existing medical conditions. I don't think that's the condition this time. But we are seeing it in clusters. And so there's a nursing home here that all of a sudden there's an outbreak and there's 13 people. There's 10 of the patients and there's 3 of the staff. We saw it on one of the athletic clubs here in town. It went from 1 to 10. And, you know, we're seeing where there's one person, the spread of it is much more than last year. So when you hear these experts talk, and the COVID leadership for this state, they talk about the R0 number and the infectivity, that it can't be stated too much that the Delta variant is so much more infective.
Dr. Smith, so I think one of the things that needs to be explained is people talk about the breakthrough cases and say, yeah, see, you get vaccinated and still get it. But one, can you speak to the seriousness if you do get it after you've been vaccinated? But also, you have the same thing with the flu. People get the flu vaccine all the time, and do you know what those percentages of people to get the flu vaccine but still get the flu? Well, I think the breakthrough cases for COVID vaccination, that 5% number I think is astounding compared to what that number would be with regular flu vaccination.
We think that the percentage of breakthrough cases is still single digits. I can tell you that across the United States, 97% of people currently dying of COVID are unvaccinated. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, if you've got 400 million that, you know, vaccines that have been pushed out there, that's going to give a lot of immunity to a lot of people. There are some variations in here that if you and I both, you know, are the same age and we grew up on the same street and we both got vaccinated the same day, our immune systems may very well be different. And one of us may have greater immunity than the other. There are some things that we do not yet understand as to why some people, despite getting vaccinated, have the breakthrough.
But I just think the performance of this vaccination is so much greater than, and again, just my opinion, of the flu. I get the flu vaccination every year.
Right.
Every other year or every, you know, I get the flu still.
Right.
You know, it may not be as severe, but I
Yes.
still get the flu, and I think that percentage seems to be a lot higher than with COVID vaccination. We're trying to figure out ways that how do we reach, if the issue is the unvaccinated people, how do we reach them? There's a certain percentage of them that you're not going to reach them, but what are some suggestions for best practices or whatever? I mean, we're going to have, on our agenda, we have a policy, which we've been working on for a while, but we had to work it through all of our legal counsel and stuff like that. But it's really a small step to trying to encourage our employees to get vaccinated. We're going to give them time off to go get vaccinated. If they're not vaccinated and they contact it, they're going to use sick leave. For the past year and a half, we've allowed admin leave. So
Right.
we're trying to slowly push people to make those decisions for their own. But well,
I think a lot of people are struggling with that. I think that you can look at West Virginia Wesleyan as an extreme, that they're taking a financial punishment of people. If you show up on campus and you're not vaccinated, you're going to pay extra money.
I don't look at it as a punishment. It's a fee for
Well,
taking
maybe-
care of those
maybe
students that are on their
punishment
campus.
wasn't the right word, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
There's
you
a
know,
cost.
if you smoke in a car, that somebody's got to clean it, and it's going to cost you some
Yeah.
extra money, right?
Yeah, my daughter goes to Wesleyan, and I'm for that because, you know, if there's some people there that are not vaccinated, and it's going for whatever reason, even if you can't be vaccinated, it costs a fee. It costs the school a fee to administer those people, regular testing,
Right.
all the precautions they have to go through.
Well, asking people who are not vaccinated to wear a mask in public is on the honor system, and so far I don't think it's been very honorable, to be frank. I know that a lot, you know, and we mentioned New York earlier, that, you know, you'll have to document vaccination to go to a restaurant. A lot of people are struggling with this. West Virginia University just yesterday mandated masks for all people on campus till October, and then they'll reevaluate.
Is that just indoors?
It's indoor.
Yeah, indoors
Okay.
and on transportation.
Right.
Yeah, but outdoors, no. So it's been my observation that you can probably break the people who have yet to be vaccinated into several camps. There are some that have a series of reasons that I'm not going to be able to rationally convince them with science and logic that this is correct. And they're going to have their opinion, and I'm just not going to spend a lot of time. Make it available to them, but they've made up their mind. Then I think that there is a group who has been reluctant to get vaccines for a number of reasons, whether it's misinformation or concerns, but they've generally say, well, I've been waiting to see. And in that waiting to see category, there's almost 400 million people vaccinated. I think those are pretty good numbers that people aren't dropping over from the COVID vaccine. And so, what more can we do? So knowing that the basis for that indecision is sometimes misinformation, disinformation, peer pressure, what have you, we are going to start focusing on all the medias, whether it's just social media, print media, TV, what have you, to try and saturate the airways, if you will, the visual spectrum, with reasons why you can do it. We've certainly made it available. If you want it, if you got 5 people, we'll bring it to you. And so, we will continue to press that, but we're going to focus on that group that's been somewhat not decided. Now, I do realize that there are other people that are in, I don't want to say disenfranchised, but communities, but maybe a little more isolated for whatever reason. And we have a really good working relationship with the NAACP, and they helped us with many of the people who were undocumented and people of color, communities of color that have questions. And we have had Zoom meetings where it's an open forum, just to, ask your questions. And we want to dissuade people that this is, not something that, is some sort of big experimentation type of stuff. But this is, a legitimate thing. We've known about the SARS virus for over 20 years. The messenger RNA vaccine is something that's been worked on for the last 20 years. This isn't something that somebody says, hey, I got an idea, let's try this. Yeah. These are tried and true types of scientific principles, and they're solid, and the vaccine is good. And I would think by the time you got 400, 500 million people, you'd pretty much know what the downside was.
2 more quick questions. One, well, maybe not as quick. The emergency use authorization. A lot of people are hanging their hat on that.
Sure.
Well, it's emergency use. And from a legal standpoint, some of the things we've been looking at, that's where we've gotten pushback from our attorneys.
Sure.
Is emergency use authorization. Is that coming, and is it coming soon?
I can't tell you the exact time. I think it will occur. I think it will occur before the end of the year. That's just Lee Smith, private citizen, speaking with what I've heard and sort of where I see the trends have been. I do understand that as soon as the emergency use authorization, then that becomes a routine medicine in the FDA armamentarium, and it will be used. I think that there will be many companies and institutions and colleges and hospitals that will mandate their employees to do it. We've seen that the federal government has already moved, I think by September 15th, to have the Department of Defense and federal employees get vaccinated by the middle of next month. So I think that it's coming. I think the current administration in Washington will continue to push for this. The Department of Justice has already said the employers have the ability to mandate this. Last year, the EEOC said that this is something that if you want to hold as a stipulation for employment, that you can. So I think that the framework is there, And I think that the reluctance of, maybe not reluctance, but the caution that your legal advisors give you is, well, let's wait and see. Let's make sure that if you mandate that somebody gets it, and if they don't have, or if they get an untoward event, then they're going to hang their hat on that. So we just want to make sure that it's been approved, and then when it's approved, it's like, well, I had a reaction to penicillin. Well, okay, maybe a couple percentage of the people across the country do, but it didn't kill you, and it's a Benadryl and you're better. So I'm not saying that all problems from COVID can be dismissed as easily, but I'm saying that once it becomes an FDA-approved drug, then it's routine.
Okay.
I just want to tell you a quick story. My son went to Belize,
Okay.
just got back, and went to one of the islands. Not only is it mandated that everyone on that island had to be vaccinated, but everyone who went there had to be vaccinated. But here's the story that surprised me. They mandated masks when you're like inside the buildings. And if you went in or walked around and got caught without it, no exception, it was a $500 fine. And he said it works.
I'm sure it
And
does.
they close the island at 10 o'clock at night, so you can't go out. But that's why they've been able to stay open and others. But $500 a night, and then he also still had to get tested 72 hours before he flew
Right.
back.
Before you come back, yeah.
So it can work, but so when people say it can't work, it definitely does.
Absolutely.
But
Anything else? Quick question, what if someone loses their card?
yeah,
Can they get a new one?
Absolutely.
Who do they go
And,
to?
yeah.
they can do it themselves if they go on VAMS,
Okay.
the Vaccine Administration Management System. They can look it up by name and date of birth. If they're having trouble or they're not technically savvy, they don't have the bandwidth, whatever, they can call us. We're happy to do that, and we can issue a new card with the lot number and the date and all that, those specifics on there.
Okay.
I really appreciate it. I think you give a lot of information that we needed to have.
Sure.
Hopefully,
Pleasure.
some people listening will maybe be convinced to get the vaccine.
We can get another 10, I'm happy.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Dr.
you very
Smith.
Thanks for your time, Doc.
All right, continuing on with the agenda, Colleen Kuhn, grants. None? Okay. All right, correspondence.
We received a letter from Michael Cronin at the Division of Highways District 4, inviting you all and other local elected officials to a informational meeting on September 2nd.
Okay.
We also got an email from Susan Riddle from the CVB regarding the Monongalia County Tourism Advancement Fund. That's all I have.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah, just an explanation that they had, I don't have, let me just see where it was a 5 or 6
6.
people or agencies.
Organizations.
What was it?
Organizations.
Organizations received it, but please remember, that was just the first grouping. This is a continual process, and we're very excited that they did apply, and it's being received very well. And again, did you want to just read? I don't have the.
Yeah, the awards went out to West Virginia Sober Living, their Rally for Recovery Scavenger Hunt, the Haas Foundation, Country Roads Barbecue Clash, Guidon? Creative,
yeah.
Guidon,
Creative.
Chocolate Wine and Shine, VMCCVB, AAU National Diving Championship, Legendary Conventions, the Mountaineer Comic Con, and Cheat Lake Rotary, the Cheat Lake Regatta were the ones that were awarded.
It was $57,700, and we're very excited that the 6 got it, and there were more on the way. So keep applying. Thank you.
Jeff, did you have any correspondence?
No.
Okay. I had just a couple things. I had an email from Pace, Bob Pernier. He said he needed a favor. Please share the following announcement as you see fit. Want to make sure a caregiver gets the deserved recognition, and it's regarding the Pace Enterprises announces the Helping Hands Award. Did you guys all get that too?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I passed that along. You can submit nominations at paceenterprises.org. So I wanted to make sure I passed that information along. Also received we received an email from a constituent that was asking about, we've been plagued by a fire that's been burning for at least 3 days at the southeastern end of the industrial park. The smoke affects Westover and parts of Morgantown. We don't have air conditioning, and these are hottest days of summer. Can't send my picture in this format. I did forward that on to Glenn Adrian with the en route, the developer at the industrial park, and he did indicate it was from grubbing and burning of the tree stumps at the site. Because wind shifted on Friday, causing this issue, and they notified the contractor. So they were taking steps to address the issue. And one other piece of correspondence, got an email from Granville regarding their 20th anniversary 911 Memorial Parade. And I see Latina's here, but I did want to make sure that I mentioned that. And when we have our public or public officials, maybe Latina, you can get up and talk about it whenever we get to that point. Okay, it'll just be a second.
I wasn't prepared for that.
We'll get to that. It's one section in the agenda. I'll call you up then. No problem. I did want to make sure that if you weren't here to talk about it, I did want to make sure that I brought it up that you guys are having that on Saturday, September 11th at 8:45. But anyhow, I'll let you talk about the details. All right. So that's all for correspondence. Unfinished business, we have none. New business. First reading regarding Monongalia County Planning Commission Resolution PO 421 for amendment to the West Run Planning District zoning map designation from low-density R1 and high-density R4 to general commercial C2 of property legal described as Union District Tax Map 12, Parcel 50, and Tax Map 21, Parcels 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.5, 1.6, and 2.
So move.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll actually have the public hearing regarding this, the second reading, and the public hearing will be next week. Consideration to approve a request by the Cupcakery for use of the Courthouse Square on October 1, 2021.
So move.
Second.
Okay, this is on October 1st from 2:30 to 6:30, and they're having their 10th anniversary happy hour celebration. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, to consider for approval requisition 49, the University Town Center Series 2017 Administrative Expense Fund. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
We have a second. Okay, the details, this is for $12,586.25. 5,000 is for two Municap invoices in the amount of $5,711.25 and $6,875. We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consideration to approve the standard operating procedures for advisory boards in the Monongalia County Parks and Recreation Department. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move. So move.
Second. Any discussion? These are basically thanks to JR for drafting these uniform SOPs to be consistent across all of our parks. We have a motion and a second to approve these SOPs as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. To consider for approval the cover sheet to member agreement for the fiscal year 22 West Virginia Communities Risk Liability Policy for the Monongalia County Commission. Do I have a motion to
moved.
approve?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? This is basically the Cliff Notes summary of the contribution and limit of liability amounts that were approved for fiscal year 22 in our 5/19/21 meeting. So this is just a formality. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consideration to approve a COVID-19 vaccination policy for employees of the Monongalia County Commission. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just
Okay.
a summary of what you talked about.
Right.
Yeah, basically, as I mentioned before, it allows lead time to actually get vaccinated, and if unvaccinated and exposed to COVID-19, it is no longer paid administrative leave, but rather sick or annual leave or simply unpaid leave. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any other new business? Okay. Reports from elected officials and/or department supervisors. Tina, I'll go ahead and let you speak in that section. Sorry for the confusion.
That's okay.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Thank
Good.
you for coming to
Thank
our
you.
meeting.
So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that we are hosting a parade on September the 11th, 20th anniversary of 9/11. First responders are going to be our primary people in the parade. It's going to be a silent parade, so we will ask them to show their lights, but no sirens, no anything like that. We have invited someone to play the bagpipes, and during every event during 9/11, we'll stop and have a moment of silence. Ask anyone that would like to come, please join us.
Is there a
we'll be
specific location?
So we're going to be starting at the north end of Main Street, which is going to be around like Hoklar Street. We have a lot up there, a large lot where we can kind of stage everything. We're going to then have the parade to our ballpark, and where we're going to have a brief reception for attendees, first responders, and anyone that would like to attend.
All right, and that starts at like
It starts at 8:45.
8:30,
Yes.
8:45. Okay.
Thank you for
All
your
right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I don't see anybody else. So reports from county commissioners. Tom?
Basically, we just hope that everyone has taken precautions. The tropical storm Fred is supposed to be hitting today. There could be some problems, so please be very careful and be very safe, and contact 911 if there are any emergencies so we can deal with it immediately. The only other thing I have is that the MMPO meeting is tomorrow night at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Jeff?
Just last week, I attended the legislative breakfast at Steptoe and Johnson. Our state elected officials, many of them were there, answering roundtable comments from the board that was there. It was very informative, and I believe they're planning on having another one with the local represented officials, being the commission and city council, in September sometime.
Oh, good.
That's what their talk was. Had a meeting yesterday at Camp Muffley regarding the pool, and it's progressing. We've had some delays, but now it's starting to take shape, and we should see hopefully a finished product of the pool itself in October. And the pool house is half the concrete's been poured, and it's moving along. So we're on pace to hopefully have it wrapped up before the bad weather hits in the fall. That's the goal.
Yeah, if it was ahead of schedule, it would probably be filled with the rain in the last couple of weeks.
Good point.
Since the last meeting, last Thursday was a very busy day. I had MAP Executive Committee meeting, and then I had a Red Team meeting, then Development Authority. Did a visit to Chestnut Ridge Park to look at the Sled Hill project, and then I went to that redistricting meeting that was held at the Milan Park, which I was very pleased with the participation. The participation from the public was very, we were well represented, and the speakers and everybody presenting was very respectful and very courteous to our guest and to the rest of the audience. So I was just pleasantly surprised that it wasn't, I was expecting more of a food fight, but it was very well, we did a good job representing our county to those legislative officials. Friday we had staff reports, and then in the afternoon I did a statewide podcast with Jim Matuga. He did Russ and I and Mark and Brogna from, I don't want to say who he works for because I may get it wrong. I think he works in Jackson County. We're just talking about economic development in Mon County, and it's a statewide podcast, so it was pretty cool to be questioned and answer some of the questions that people were asking across the state about what we're doing here in Mon County. This week, Monday, the administrator and I had a meeting with the Monongalia County Emergency Services Director, Forrest Wyan, and then I had a meeting with a constituent after that. Yesterday was, we had our June monthly call, and then I had lunch with Dr. Smith prior to him coming in today. Today's a regular day, but I have my MAP monthly meeting this afternoon Tomorrow I have Mylan Park Foundation, Monongalia County Broadband Survey Team, and then the Development Authority Executive Committee meeting. I'm meeting with Rachel in the extension with the accounting people from Mylan Park and Rachel to go over how they're recording the finances. And again, just another step in the transition to our staff. And then at night, as Commissioner Bloom mentioned, we had the MMPO meeting. Friday, we have staff reports, and then we have a broadband initiative full committee meeting. So it's a busy week. In general, want to thank 911 Mecca for working with the public to help record and address all the flooding and rain damage recently. We had another on, what was that, Monday night, that we had a lot of more rain on the western end. And it just seems to be a regular occurrence. Plus, here we're expecting a lot of rain in the next couple days. So really appreciate all their efforts in keeping us informed. We were getting regular texts that night as far as what was going on. There was a report that someone went missing. They found the individual. So I really appreciate them keeping us informed. In regards to Dr. Smith's, our conversation with Dr. Smith, and I know people are just tired and burnt out, and here we go again. But I think my doctor really gave me a great analogy, because I was telling him, I said, people are just tired of what they're told now versus what they're told before, and it just keeps changing, and there never seems to be an end. And he gave me the analogy of a pilot flying the plane. When you're flying the plane, you take off, everybody has to be buckled up. They tell everybody buckled up, and then they get to a cruising speed, and they tell you can take your buckle off. And they hit some turbulence, and they tell you to put your buckle back on. And then they're through the turbulence, and they tell you to take your buckle back off. And then they hit turbulence again, or you're getting ready to land, and they tell you to put it back on. So he said people just need to think about this whole COVID pandemic as just being a one long plane ride. And yes, there's going to be times when, hey, it's safe, take your mask off. Hey, put your mask back on. So I thought was a pretty neat analogy to just get people to understand. Dr. Smith and his staff aren't just making this up. Our public health officials aren't just making this up. This is a pandemic. It's never happened before, and they're dealing with it the best they can. And sometimes the information coming from the state, from the federal government, from locally may seem confusing, but it's just people they do this for a living, and this has never happened before, and they're dealing with this the best they can. So I just ask for people to be patient and try to do their best to do their part to try to help get through this. So having said that, is there anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.